Today we're going to continue our lesson with the Great Depression, analyzing the actions that President Hoover took. So our objective for today is, I will learn how the Great Depression progressed by critiquing the actions of President Herbert Hoover. Once again, the objective is, I will learn how the Great Depression progressed by critiquing the actions of President Herbert Hoover. So today we're looking into President Herbert Hoover and the Great Depression. Again, we're not referring to the Great Depression as known as my hairline, my ever-changing hairline, but the event from 1929 to throughout the 1930s. So Hoover wins the 1928 election. Republican Herbert Hoover ran against Democrat Alfred E. Smith in the 1928 election. Hoover emphasized years of prosperity under Republican administrations. Hoover won an overwhelming victory. Hoover represents the progressive presidents that came before him, such as Theodore Roosevelt. He made the Republicans seem much more down to earth than the Democrats. Now, today it might look a little different, but back during before the 1930s, Republicans were the ones that supported minorities and working class. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Today, Donald Trump is a Republican. So it kind of gives you an idea of the transition and the switch from what Republicans were before then, what Republicans are now, for better or for worse, however you want to see it. Hoover won an overwhelming victory over Smith. So if we see this electoral map for 1928, we see that every state that is colored blue voted for Herbert Hoover, where only the South and like Massachusetts and Rhode Island voted for Smith. So Hoover won by a landslide the 1928 election. This is a young Hoover supporter in 1928 holding a sign that says Hoover for president. People were much more active in politics back then than they are today. So we went over this. I'm not going to go over this too much, but the 1929 crash, Black Tuesday, happens a year after Hoover is elected president. He is sworn in January. This happens in October, so it's about 9-10 months into his presidency that the stock market crashes. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this one because we've already done 2 days on the stock market crash. And here's a graph. We kind of saw this already, but you can see the drop down on October 29th, how it went from really good to not so good and just kept getting worse. By mid-November, there's about $30 billion lost. It's a lot of money. It's more than I get paid. So some hardships during the Depression. We went over this on Friday and yesterday. The Great Depression brought hardship, homelessness, and hunger to millions. Across the country, people lost their jobs and homes. Some built makeshift shacks out of scrap material. Before long, whole shanty towns, sometimes called Hoover towns, in a mock reference to the president, sprung up. So people just started losing everything. The houses, their cars, their jobs. Basically everything that they had was gone, and they would have to go live in one of these places. You know, a year or two beforehand, any one of these people in one of these huts could have been living in a mansion. Hoover struggles with the Depression. After the stock market crash, President Hoover tried to reassure Americans. He said, any lack of confidence in the economic future is foolish. He recommended business as usual. This is his laissez-faire attitude towards it. He was worried about causing a panic, so he pretended that nothing was wrong because people won't panic. The only problem was something was wrong. The stock market was tanking, the economy was falling apart. By pretending nothing was wrong, it kind of didn't do anything to help stop it. Hoover's philosophy was not to react to the Depression. He believed rugged individualism, the idea that people succeeded through their own efforts. People should take care of themselves, not depend on government handouts. He said people should pull themselves up by the bootstraps. This usually is a good idea and a good philosophy to have because people are ingenuitive. People could survive a lot of stuff. The thing is, when the stock market crashed, there wasn't really anything for people to do. There was nothing they could really do. Like their savings were gone, their homes were gone, their cars were gone, the banks wouldn't give them any money, and they still had to pay bills. So the government should have stepped in to help out somehow, but he chose not to. He believed that was the individual's job to take care of themselves, not the government. And well, we'll get to that some other time. But like many of your parents just received a $1,200 check in the mail from President Trump and his government. Hoover wouldn't have done that. And as much as a lot of you don't like the president, and I'm not saying good or bad, I'm not saying either way, he did some action to help alleviate some of the bills, some of the pain, and so did many of the governors of each state. Governor Murphy, the governor of New Jersey right now, has been going out of his way to make sure people can't get evicted, that people will not have to pay certain bills, and making sure that everyone gets extra money on their unemployment if they are not in a job because of this coronavirus. You can take a look at this on your own. I'm not going to go into this right now. So, Hoover's successful dam project, and we mean dam as in what holds up water, not dam as what you say when I give you extra homework. So, Hoover successfully organized and authorized the construction of the Boulder Dam, now called the Hoover Dam. This $700 million project was the world's tallest dam at 726 feet and the second largest at 1,244 feet. The dam currently provides electricity, flood control, water, and water for 7 western states. It's right outside Las Vegas. It's still standing today. It is a massive piece of architecture that, like, we're going to see a picture of it at the end, but the size of this, and just to think they built this in the 30s. And how it was actually made is phenomenal. Also, interesting side note, the Hoover Dam actually had a couple people die while making it. Several people die. So the first to die was this guy named J.G. Tierney. He was a surveyor who drowned on December 20th, 1922, while looking for an ideal spot for the dam. So this is before they actually started construction of it, looking for the area to build this dam. The last death on the project's official fatality list occurred on December 20th, 1935, where an electrician's helper, Patrick Tierney, the son of J.G. Tierney, fell from the intake tower. So, the first death of the Hoover Dam and the last death of the Hoover Dam were father and son, who died 13 years apart to the day. December 20th, 1922, the father died. It's the first death. December 20th, 1935, the son died as the final death. Hoover takes action too little, too late. Hoover gradually softened his position on government intervention in the economy. He created the Federal Farm Board to help farmers. He also created the National Credit Organization that helps smaller banks. His Federal Home Loan Bank Act and Reconstruction Finance Corps were 2 measures enacted to protect people's homes and businesses. He was trying to save the economy, but by this time, the Great Depression was just out of control. Too many people were unemployed. Too many people didn't have confidence in the government. Too many companies couldn't hire anyone because of how broke everyone was. So even when he tried to help, it becomes too little too late at this point. Bonus Army. A 1932 incident further damaged Hoover's image. That spring, about 15,000 World War I veterans arrived in Washington to support a proposed bill. The Putnam Bill would have authorized Congress to pay a bonus to World War I vets immediately. The bonus was scheduled to be paid in 1945. The Army vets wanted it now. So they wanted it earlier. I mean, think about it. World War I ended 14 years beforehand. So a lot of these people have families, the fathers at this point, they have families to support, and everyone is broke. They were supposed to get extra money 12 years in the future, but they needed it now. They might not need it in 1945. They might not even be alive in 1945. So they wanted to see if they could get that money as soon as possible. The bonus army turned down. Hoover called the bonus marchers communists and criminals. On July 17, 1932, the Senate voted down the Putnam Bill. So these are people who fought for the United States in World War I. And we did a whole unit on that. You know how horrible that war was and how many deaths and how scary it was for a lot of people. Rather than him saying, I understand you, we don't have that money right now, we will get it to you or we'll do something for you. He says, no, you guys are communists and criminals. And keep in mind, this is right after the Communist Revolution in Russia. So communist isn't that good of a word. Remember the Red Scare, all that stuff that happened in the 20s. So think of if you saw the movie Joker, when after Arthur Fleck shoots the 3 Wall Street guys on the train. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet. Thomas Wayne's on TV and says that they're a bunch of clowns. It's basically that same reaction. He is basically talking down to these people who fought for this country and died for this country. Some had horrible injuries and they lived through them. People had half their face shot off and stuff like that. Bonus marchers clash with soldiers. Hoover told the bonus marchers to go home, and many did. 2,000 refused to leave. Hoover sent a force of 1,000 soldiers under the command of General Douglas MacArthur and his aide Dwight Eisenhower. Now, we looked at MacArthur a little bit when we talked about World War I. He was friends with General Patton, or Corporal Patton at that point in World War I. You saw him in that video that I showed you guys in class. So General MacArthur is now a general in the Army, obviously. He will play a massive role next unit when we do World War II. And his aide, Dwight Eisenhower, becomes the Supreme Commander of the Atlantic Theater, and he oversees D-Day in World War II and becomes president after Harry Truman, so a little after World War II ends. In fact, my father and mother were both born when Dwight Eisenhower was president of the United States. And in this picture, the guy with the important-looking guy all the way on the left is Douglas MacArthur. Americans shocked at the treatment of World War I vets. MacArthur's 12th Infantry gassed more than 1,000 marchers, including an 11-month-old baby who died. 2 vets were shot and scores injured. Americans were outraged once again, and Hoover's image suffered. Think of the Bloody Sunday of the Russian Revolution that we talked about. These people were doing a peaceful march. The army comes out and starts attacking World War I veterans. And, we weren't in war, so a lot of these people in the army never fought in the war. They were just in the army. And now they're attacking veterans of the Great War, World War I, and even resulted in the death of an 11-month-old baby. You're not going to think that Hoover is that great of a guy after this. Same thing with Nicholas II. Nicholas II ordered his soldiers to shoot on the people protesting on Bloody Sunday, and we know what happened to him. Now, the same thing doesn't happen to Hoover, but still, it's not a good situation. So we saw his picture yesterday, but by the time 1932 comes around, there's very little chance that Hoover would be elected. He is extremely unpopular. Most Americans blame him for the Great Depression and for it getting worse and not stopping. And in 1932, there's going to be another election which Hoover would not win. So Hoover loses the election to Franklin Roosevelt, which we will get to when we next week. So, are there any damn questions? And not just about the Hoover Dam, but any questions at all? Feel free to message me, go anything along those lines, and I'll be here to help you. For classwork today, you're going to read Chapter 22, Section 3, sorry for the typo, Section 3, Hoover struggles with the Depression. Answer the main idea questions A through D. Responses must be in complete 7th grade quality responses to earn full credit. Please make sure you ace the question. That is, answer the question, cite evidence, and explain your answer. Alright guys, thank you, have a great day, and I'll catch you all later.